Finally, Ohio State is back in the horseshoe on Saturday, and it also feels like forever since we've been in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It's been a week since the last Talking Tuesday with television 10 TVs.
That's a lot of T's.
Adam King. I am Austin Ward. It is a Talking Tuesday. Ryan Day will be at the podium later on today, and as always, Adam has so many questions on his mind.
I do.
Let's dive into them.
First question is the easiest question, and I don't know. We'll start with the lie detector, Ryan Day.
Hey.
How much are you actually worried about Jim Knowles knowing this offense and this defense? And I know that sounds silly. Like, I feel like that's something we make a lot of. Like, well, he was here for 3 years. He knows the players. He knows. But, like, on the inside, are they actually changing anything? Are they worried that they're going to know the weaknesses on offense a little more? Because obviously this guy sat across the table from Ryan Day for 3 seasons and saw the offensive. I know it was a Chip Kelly offense, but it was still always a Ryan Day offense. And the offensive mindset.
The Ohio State offense.
The Ohio State offense. And so I want to know, is that something that we make too much of, or is that a reality? And I'm curious what he'll say.
And I think there's another way at it that it has me more interested, which is Ryan Day sat across the table from Jim Knowles for 3 years. He became the CEO of the Ohio State program, became more involved at times with the re-engineering of the Jim Knowles defense. So he also has seen what works and what doesn't work on the other side. We get so focused sometimes, I think for good reason. How does this apply to Ohio State? What can somebody else do to limit the effectiveness of the Buckeyes? Is the weather going to be okay?
Well, that's very true.
We get to those things and we don't consider the alternative. And this week I'm kind of like, well, yeah, maybe Jim Knowles could find a way to stop Jeremiah Smith that others haven't considered. But it feels more likely to me that Ryan Day and Brian Hartline and Billy Fessler and Carlos Lachlan are all they've all been in that room and know what Jim Knowles like they've had a ton of practice against this system.
That's a very interesting point, because I would argue there's probably more new for Ohio State on the offensive side of the ball. Like what Jim Knowles is going to see. Yes, he played against Jeremiah and Carnell, but he didn't really go against Julian Sayin other than in practice and third string reps or second string reps, wherever you want to put it. And so that's a good point. I wonder how much they can benefit. I mean, I am just a mere mortal of a man, but I know that if you want to beat a Jim Knowles defense, you just got to look for the big play.
Yeah.
Because
get to the fourth quarter.
I mean, I have seen a lot of the Jim Knowles defense, and there are plays to be exploited. I do think we're going to see Knowles blitz a lot. I think that's probably...
It's got to, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so that leads me to question number 2 is, how confident are you? I feel like Julian still has not been tested in a pass rush this year. I mean, I would have to go back through game by game, but I can't necessarily...
I think Texas is probably the closest.
I can't remember a time when I thought, oh boy, he's rattled. And that's because Julian Sayin is a very good quarterback and he's settled in very, very well. But I do wonder if they're preparing, maybe it's rolling him out more. He does such a good job rolling out and throwing that football. It's unbelievable.
He does.
Just look at the last pass he threw against Wisconsin to Brandon Inniss. But I wonder if that has been a focus this week of knowing that Jim Knowles is probably going to he's going to push all his chips in this game, send the house, try to save his job over there or save face over there.
It does feel like there was some element, and how much of it, I don't know. And I don't know how much Ryan Day would ever reveal when it comes to that anyway. But like when he talked after Wisconsin about we needed to see where the passing game really was, and you all could tell that this is what the game plan was going to be. It was going to be the emphasis, and that he threw it 42 times. How much of that was because of what they're anticipating seeing from Jim Knowles, whether that is in coverage, whether that is with blitz pressures, whatever. I don't know. I'm just another mortal man.
Mere mortal
man. Not a foolish mortal. Halloween is not till later this week. Welcome.
Is that this week?
Yeah.
It is. It's just Friday.
Yeah.
What are you going as?
I don't know. Maybe Jack Skellington.
Oh.
I've already been that once. It was the Halloween party.
Are you a mask guy or are you a face paint guy?
No, I don't like either of those things.
Okay.
So I pretty much just wore a hoodie.
So you're just yourself.
Yeah.
And then you just walk around.
A creepier version, if you can
imagine. Do you think
that.
there's someone out there going as Austin Ward?
I sure hope.
I hope that someone sends a picture of them trick-or-treating as Austin Ward.
If you and your buddies want to dress up in a suit or put on a 97.1 The Fan
Call
vest
Talking
and
Tuesday.
go as Talking Tuesday, let us know.
Or just the beat. You can be Birm. I don't have to be,
whatever. If that's you, shout out to you all. But I think
That's called a sidebar.
that is. I think that the emphasis on the passing attack, and Ohio State's going to treat Penn State as a legitimate opponent.
Yes, 100%.
And I think that they would have planted the seeds for that 2 weeks ago. And it's different. I think the way you would attack Penn State is a lot different than the way we're going to be talking about Ohio State offensively for the last week in November and going to the Big House. So is this the game where you have to prove something with the toughness or emphasize the rushing attack? We've spent 2 weeks, or we've now 2 months talking about, can that be better? Can it be more efficient? Is there a concern about the run game? Against Jim Knowles and against this Penn State team, I'm not sure that has to be an emphasis at all.
I think that I'm excited about this game because it is probably the first time, maybe Illinois was an argument, but that was a road game and Ohio State got out. Like, they have to win the game. Obviously we all know that Penn State is not what they're supposed to be. But as you said, inside the Woody, they're approaching this game as this is still the number 2 Penn State that everyone talked about preseason. So I would love to have the conversation with lie detector Ryan Day about, is this the game where you let it go? Like where you kind of say, we're not focused on ourselves now. We're going to beat Penn State. We're going to make sure that we do whatever it takes to come out there and play our best game. And I think we haven't seen that with Ohio State probably since Texas in a matchup game where they're still looking at it as a matchup game. I think Texas was a matchup. Maybe you could say Washington was a matchup game.
They never called it that.
No.
They said it was going to be a test.
Yeah, Illinois.
Same with Illinois.
It was never a matchup game.
No.
I feel like inside the Woody. So there's your question. Do you consider this still a matchup game?
Yeah, I do have that question. And I think that...
Well, I have that question. Nope.
Draw straws?
Draw straws.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because
Continue.
I think it is an interesting one because I kind of think you look at the record and you look at the lack of any Power 4 victories for Penn State at this point.
That's crazy.
And it's impossible to wrap your mind around.
It's November.
It's November. They don't have a head coach and they don't have a starting quarterback anymore. This was a lot of people around the country talking themselves into this being a national title favorite, not just contender. They were going to win the Big Ten. They had followed the blueprint that Ohio State, took to such great effect in a national championship a year ago. And I didn't buy into that personally, but I certainly could look at the Penn State roster, 1 through 85, and say, yeah, that is one of the 5 or 6 most talented teams in the country. I had questions about Aller. I think that I was a little bit skeptical. I fully appreciate what Jim Knowles did at Ohio State and the way he elevated the Silver Bullets, and certainly winning a national championship was important. Now I'm looking at what Matt Patricia is doing. It's like he's standing on the shoulders of that and taking it to a whole nother level. And it makes me, so I had some level of skepticism about how quickly Jim Knowles could influence the Penn State defense and get it where it needed to go. Because what did we hear? Well, you need a year or 2 to learn it. Tanner McAllister's got to come in and help teach this to the other Buckeyes in the secondary. It's a safety-driven defense. By year 3, boy, look out. And yeah, I was looking out there, and they looked pretty good. But this team, they're 30th in scoring defense. That's fine-ish, but that's also part of the reason why they haven't beat anybody in the Big Ten.
Listen, I respect Jim Knowles. I think Jim Knowles did exactly what he came here to do. He took what was a disaster of a Buckeye defense, and they won a national title.
Pretty good.
I do wonder, talent-wise, you have to factor that in. And so
I wonder, I have more questions for Jim Knowles than anybody in the Woody.
That's so. This week we should do Talking Tuesday with Jim Knowles. You know who else? I'd like to do lie detector with the players about Jim Knowles. I mean, who was it that said
Peyton Pierce?
Peyton Pierce, when he said, "I've
Texas
had more conversations with Matt Patricia in 2 minutes than I did with Jim." The dynamic inside the Woody right now. I still consider. I think I said. It feels like Ohio State won this by a wide margin in this trade.
Yeah.
And so lie detector Jim Knowles, I'd like to ask if he regrets his decision. To Ryan.
He has to. Even without a lie detector, even without truth serum, they're 7 games in and they're eliminated from the Big Ten race. Yeah, the check is nice, but everything about his reputation has gone up in smoke.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. That's the crazy part is he went from his stock watch, you couldn't have been higher. And then and now this season makes you wonder, how good maybe was Jim Knowles? Because look at Matt Patricia. I don't know how to explain this, and I'm trying to figure out how to put it into words. So I'm just going to try, and if it sounds terrible, I apologize. Every day that passes, I'm more convinced that Jim Knowles won a national title because of the talent, and he's a good defensive coordinator. I'm also convinced that this Ohio State defense looks the way it does because Matt Patricia is an excellent defensive coordinator and has excellent talent.
Yeah.
And so I think what you're seeing right now with this Buckeye defense is literally two just excellence. Because I think last year, it was a good defensive unit, a talented defensive unit, and a defensive coordinator that got them to the finish line. This year, I would ask Ryan Day straight up, do you think that in any world when you got the news that Jim Knowles left, that this is where you'd be sitting? That you would be headed to Penn State thinking, oh my goodness, we won this trade by a mile.
Yeah. Did
that make sense, by the way?
Yeah. And I think that because let's think about one specific example. And we covered Jim Knowles for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Was there ever a time where you were like, yeah, he's going to move Arvell Reese all over the field. He's going to find a bunch of different... How much time did we spend talking about the Jack or the Leo or...
Well, he moved Jack to the Jack, and it made things worse.
The double Jack was too much Jack.
Jack squared it did not work.
Didn't work. But
actually, that would be... No, that's...
I don't... This isn't a math show, Adam.
Oh, that's right. I apologize.
I think he's the example to me, which Jim Knowles was excellent. He got the job done. I'm not ever going to diminish that. Mm-hmm. It's exactly what you're talking about when you're putting the hindsight on and then you're projecting that forward. What would Ohio State's defense right now look like if Jim Knowles was still here? And I am not as convinced that they would be doing all the things, whether that is personnel, whether that is different schematic approach, whether that they've been so good under Matt Patricia. And they're 7 games in. They have half of the year to go if they want to accomplish what Jim Knowles did last year, which is help them raise a national championship trophy. So the work is not done by any stretch of the imagination. But it's really tough to watch what Matt Patricia has done to this point of the season on a historic level in terms of scoring, defense, total yardage, the whole deal, and not think that it would be a regression if Jim Knowles was around. Especially because you're factoring in what you see with your own eyes at Penn State, which has been a mess. And the UCLA game doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Bring your broom, because it's a mess.
It's a mess. Yeah. And look, I'm curious about I know what the reaction is going to be. I guess I'm not curious. But I wonder how many people will still tip a hat while booing at the same time to what he accomplished.
I was thinking the same thing. I mean, he's a national champion for Ohio State. I saw that he had, that's a good question for the fans. We're not even allowed to ask them. They don't have media.
You can do a Friday King on the street.
Oh, thoughts on Jim Knowles. It's coming this Friday. Where do we stand on...
Where are you on Knowles?
Where are you on Knowles? That's what I'm going to say, and I'm going to walk away. I do wonder, like, when you look at Jim Knowles, he still has... Did you see, like, the presentation area, like, display case with all his Ohio State stuff?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to dislike a man that...
I very much liked his personality. I know he's not for everybody.
Austin said he was the worst human on earth. I thought that was a little far. No, like he did so much.
I meant that as a compliment.
Yeah. But the fact that he did what he did and left to go where he went, I think has created a shocking amount of animosity. But then, so when sometimes people don't like each other, or like they're rivals, and you make someone say something nice about the other.
Yeah.
I think it would be great if somebody asked Ryan at the podium, what is one thing that you learned from Jim Knowles that you still use in your day-to-day coaching career?
Do you think that will be answered? Or are you going to ask that?
Not a chance I'm asking that question.
Yeah.
But because I know for a fact that there's a lot of things that Ryan Day probably taught Jim Knowles. I don't know that,
I mean, he had a great cigar collection.
He had a great cigar collection.
Maybe he helped Ryan Day.
He kept the McDonald's coffee in business around here.
Did, yeah.
But I think you're right. I think the biggest question of this Talk on Tuesday is really interesting is for the fan base, I think that's the one I really don't know the answer to, is how are they going to react when Jim Knowles walks into the shoe?
Yeah.
They're certainly going to boo, but you're going to boo a guy that a year ago was...
That's why I think you give you go to Nationwide Arena and you have the packages on the video board for returning players.
Yeah.
You did this for the Jackets. Or, lots of pro teams do that. But then, so that way you can give a moment. You have the stick taps and you can give 4 claps or 5. I'm not sure. That's up to you.
Not 6.
And once you get to the 5th clap, then you say, thank you for the national championship. And then you can boo mercilessly. Please do. He coaches for Penn State now.
I will say, how much does it, another question for the fan base, how much does Penn State being an absolute disaster make you a little less angry at Jim Knowles? Like, if this was 1 versus 2, I think there'd be a lot of boos.
It's like, hey, we told you so.
Yeah, all right, you wanted to leave.
You didn't want to coach Caleb Downs for 1 more year in a safety-driven defense? That's on you, buddy. All right, so those were questions for the fans more than Ryan Day. You have one more question.
Okay.
You're a very busy man. Do you go to right guard again, or are we just going to have to wait till Saturday?
I think we'll have to wait till Saturday. I don't think we're going to lose. I don't think we're going to learn anything in that press conference. I certainly don't think we need to, but it's funny you say that because we focus so much on Penn State because I think that is the overall talker of this week. And it's nice to be able to talk about an opponent because it feels like for the last 6 weeks, we've just been talking about Ohio State constantly without really a matchup game.
But I do, that's a great point that you brought up though. Like, will Ryan Day call it a talent-equated matchup game? I think we were getting to that point earlier on, and we kind of side trailed off to Halloween costumes.
Yeah, it's fair.
But I was 1 through 85, and the way that they spent and allocated their resources for this roster,
they're the
same. They are good.
Ryan Day said to me right after the Wisconsin game that they are treating this as the number 2 team in the country. And if you're going to say that, then this is a matchup game. And if that's the case, then you've got to do whatever it takes to win that matchup game. Yeah. So that is a question that we will get an answer to on Talking Tuesday.
Yeah, because I think that will reveal a lot about the mindset for Ohio State this week, because it always sounds cliche in coach speak all throughout the record. Like, this is a very talented team. We see it on film. And I guarantee that we're going to hear that from Ryan Day. But I actually kind of think that he means it, and he certainly does from a mentality standpoint for Ohio State. Because if Penn State has not even come close to fulfilling their potential this year, not even one time, not even in the pre-con, non-con, as Birm calls it, in those first 3 games, they were still sluggish, they were still poor, and that was a little bit of foreshadowing for what was going to come. Doesn't mean that they can't still do that at one game this year. Mm-hmm. You just don't want it to happen Saturday in the Horseshoe.
100%.
All right, so we'll see, because it is one day closer. We will hear from Ryan Day in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Tuesday. It is a Talkin' Tuesday. I don't know why that doesn't say with televisions, Adam King.
We'll get it fixed.
But the other graphic, I bet, says that. I can't see it right now, but I know that Birm won't let me down on that. All right, so we'll have full coverage from that on the beat. Tomorrow, we'll have some stocks. The Austin Birm Show will have snap judgments. After Ryan Day's press conference, we'll see what other news comes out of that as we get ready for Ohio State and Penn State Saturday, big noon kickoff on Fox. He's TV's Adam King. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you later.